Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have some really surprising, or not surprising, but, shocking news about since Judge Mershon, who is a New York judge out of Manhattan, since he denied Donald Trump's motion, Donald Trump says, "Oh, I'm gonna sue the judge for denying my motion." Are you serious? Are you serious, dude? Really? Are you serious? Um, let's let's take a look at motion or request to halt his hush money sentencing in his hush money case. And the article begins and reads, President-elect Donald Trump, who is unfortunately the incoming president, but still the president-elect, for now, seeking to halt the upcoming sentencing in his hush money criminal case in New York on Monday, filed suit against Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg and Judge Juan Mershon over the judge's denial of his presidential immunity motion. Really, dude? The article continues and reads, the filing came as Judge Juan Mershon denied a request by Trump filed earlier Monday that Mershon stay the sentencing, which is scheduled for Friday. Trump's lawyers filed the suit called an Article 78 motion in New York Appellate Division 1st Department. That, ladies and gentlemen, and he is currently still president-elect. The judge specifically states, or has stated, that there's no such thing as presidential-elect immunity. Or to come up with that, there's no such thing as presidential immunity either. The United States Supreme Court just randomly just threw it out there, out of thin air, because Donald Trump asked them to. The article continues, Trump's attorneys argued in the suit that Judge Mershon exceeded his jurisdiction when he denied Trump's claim of presidential immunity in his ruling last week and ordered Trump to appear for sentencing either in person or virtually on January 10th, following his May conviction. Okay, how did he exceed his jurisdiction? By denying your bogus immunity motion. And in fact, it was an illegal motion because I'm still not convinced that president immunity even exists, or even presidential elect immunity. It's just bogus, and because of those 5 justices that voted, 3 of the 9 justices agree that it is completely bogus, and the Constitution doesn't even say anything about immunity or even what the 5 justices wrote up in an opinion. So why, all this is still not making any sense. They still voted to convict him in Congress, and in his impeachment trial, he was just acquitted. They voted, I think Glenn Kirshner said 67 or something like that, but they fell short a little bit, or I think, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, or I think it was 57, but they still fell short. I don't know. Glenn, if you're watching this, please correct me on that. But this is still, regardless of what anyone says, in violation of this election. Without it being denied is in violation of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which states that no person shall be who has engaged in an insurrection, which is in fact what Donald Trump engaged in 4 years ago today. He is an adjudicated insurrectionist, found also by the Supreme Court of Colorado. And which the United States Supreme Court didn't even object to their motion that Donald Trump is an adjudicated insurrectionist. They didn't even throw out the opinion that he is an adjudicated insurrectionist by the Colorado Supreme Court. They just made the legislation up that Congress has to randomly enact. Sorry about that, guys. That Congress has to randomly enact and create legislation which is bogus. That's not even in the context of the U.S. Constitution. To continue with the article, Trump was found guilty in May of falsifying a felony. Let me start that over, folks. Trump was found guilty in May of 34 felony counts, but it doesn't say felony counts. But that's what he was charged with. He was charged with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records related to a hush money payment made to adult film star or film actress or porn star. It really doesn't matter. Stormy Daniels, in order to boost his electoral prospects in the 2016 presidential election. The article continues, denying Trump's request to halt the sentencing, Merchan wrote, begin quote, this court has considered defendant's arguments in support of his motion and finds that they are, for the most part, a repetition of the arguments he has raised numerous times in the past, end quote. So my question is, why is he still egging this on? Judge Merchan should just say, you know what, I've had enough, I'm throwing you in the slammer. But no, unfortunately, he is considering giving him an unconditional discharge. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I completely disagree with Judge Merchan's ruling, but I'm gonna roll with it because that's the right thing to do, but I disagree. The article continues, begin quote, further, this court finds that the authorities relied upon the instant motion by the defendant are, for the most part, factually distinguishable from the actual record or legally inapplicable, Merchan wrote. In asking Merchan to stay, the article continues and reads, the sentencing, Trump's attorneys had argued that Merchan will lack authority to proceed with sentencing, end quote, and begin quote, because Trump is still appealing Merchan's earlier ruling that the Supreme Court presidential immunity decision does not apply to the New York hush money case. Ladies and gentlemen, what I think is going to happen is the appellate court is going to just say, accept the case and not even rule on it. Because it's just a waste of time, and Donald Trump is already at the sentencing phase of the trial. So hence, the trial's not even over with. It's not. He was found guilty. Judge Merchan ruled on the motion, and he agreed with the guilty verdict and put a judgment of guilt into the computer and immediately sentenced him. Which again is going to be on January 10th, 2025, which is 10 days before he is scheduled to be illegally inaugurated into office. The article continues, begin quote, forcing a president to continue to defend a criminal case, potentially through trial, or even more dramatically, here through sentencing and judgment, while the appellate courts are still grappling with his claim of immunity, would in fact force that president to answer for his conduct in court. He should, all of the crimes that he committed, he should answer for his crimes. But no, it's Donald Trump. Donald Trump says, I'm innocent, I'm rich, so I'm innocent. The article continues, still in the same paragraph. Air quote, to answer for his conduct, or before his claim of immunity is finally adjudicated, defense attorneys Todd Planch and Emil Bovey wrote. The article continues in the next paragraph. Merchan initially scheduled the sentencing for July 11th before pushing it back in order to weigh if Trump's conviction was impacted by the Supreme Court July immunity ruling prohibiting the prosecution of a president for official acts undertaken while in office. Merchan subsequently ruled that Trump's conviction related to, air quote, entirely, or end quote, entire, or begin quote, entirely to unofficial conduct, end quote, and begin quote, poses no risk of intrusion on the authority and function of the executive branch, end quote. So why is Donald Trump egging the situation on more instead of just shutting his mouth and taking the consequences? Why? The Manhattan District Attorney's Office urged Merchan to reject Trump's request, arguing in a filing on Monday that the court has already, begin quote, bent over backwards, end quote, to allow Trump to raise his claims of presidential immunity. In the next paragraph, it begins, Bragg rejected Trump's argument that his pending appeals mean Merchan does not have the authority to go forward. And I agree with that. I agree with Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. I simply rightfully agree, because just because somebody is appealing something does not mean the court has to hold the entire case. Moving on to the next paragraph. Begin quote, "The notice of appeal that defendant will file with the appellate division do not divest this court of jurisdiction or otherwise automatically stay proceedings in this court," end quote, Bragg argued in his filing. Prosecutors argued that Trump's lawyers failed to make the, air quote, extraordinary showing, end quote, needed to justify a stay of the entire case as they requested, arguing that the delay is largely a product of Trump's own doing. The article continues, begin quote, "The current schedule is entirely a function of defendant's request." Let me read that again to you guys. The current schedule is entirely a function of the defendant's request. Repeated request to adjourn a sentencing date that was originally set for July 11, 2024. He should not now be heard to complain of harm from delays he caused, the filing said. Illegally caused these delays. And for what? For what? The article continues. The district attorney said sentencing Trump on January 10th would not impair the discharge of Trump's official duties because they are, begin quote, duties he does not possess before January 20th, 2025, end quote. The article reads in the next paragraph, begin quote, "The president-elect is, by definition, not yet the president. The president-elect, therefore, does not perform any Article II functions under the Constitution, and there are no Article II functions that would be burdened by ordinary criminal process involving the president-elect," the filing said. Um, entirely unofficial acts that he committed. But, unfortunately, Mershon's ruling is Mershon's ruling, and I think it'd be best interest for Alvin Bragg to try to persuade Judge Mershon to sentence him to jail time, or at least give him restrictions on performing his job, or uh, patients. Continuing with the same paragraph, effectively a blemish on Trump's record, saying it struck a balance between the duties of president and the sanitary of the jury's verdict. Begin quote, or beginning, continuing. Trump's attorneys in their Monday filing said it did not matter. That's false. A sentence of unconditional discharge, while it is indisputable that the fabricated charges in this meritless case should have never been brought, and at this point could not possibly justify a sentence more onerous than that. No sentence at all is appropriate based on numerous legal errors, including legal errors directly relating to presidential immunity that President Trump will address in the forthcoming appeals, the defense said in Monday's filing. Please disregard the unconditional discharge and at least give him a sentence that he will be required to do after he gets out of office come January 20th of 2029. That would be the best option. Continuing, Trump, who is set to be inaugurated on January 20th, has also argued that the sentencing would disrupt his presidential transition and, begin quote, threatens the functioning of the federal government. Okay, and gentlemen. Everyone you know, because it can really definitely help me out in the long run. Um, before we get before we end today's video today, um, can I just say I don't. It's not what Mershon is doing is not going to threaten the office of the presidency or responsibility. For today's video, ladies and gentlemen, um, I will talk to you guys later, and I guess here's to 4 more sucking years of Donald Trump. Go ahead and you can disagree with me, but that's okay. But he is constitutionally and legally disqualified by um the 14th Amendment, Section 3, because he engaged in an insurrection and ignited. So he's legally and constitutionally disqualified. Even just ask go ask Glenn Kirshner. He'll tell you. Go ask John Boniface. He'll tell you. And there will be a lot of Democratic constitutional scholars that'll tell you guys that whether he's disqualified or not, which he is.